And we are live. Welcome to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about living your life on your own terms. But what does that really mean, right? We're going to dive in a little deeper. Everyone wants to live life on their own terms. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but for different reasons. And we're going to be talking a lot about the mindset and the emotional IQ that is required to make that happen. See you on the inside. There we go. Welcome.
Are you still welcoming?
All right. Yeah, I could not hear Tina. Can you guys hear Tina at all?
No.
Okay.
No, we can't hear Tina. Come back, Tina.
So
you might have to take your earphones out, Tina.
Yeah, that it might be that. So until she gets actually cued in, I'll just say, most of you that tuned in last week, Tina was actually sick. We missed her on that show, and today we're missing her voice. So she's coming back. She's here in the present. We just need to get her connected so that you can hear all the input that she's going to be throwing down on today's show. But let's just kind of get things started as she's figuring that out. You may have to pop out and then pop back in. That might be one of the best options for you. All right, awesome. So, we've talked before about like what it takes to be an entrepreneur and why people want to become an entrepreneur. Living your life on your own terms means a lot of different things for different people. But today we're going to actually be dissecting that, kind of peeling back some of the layers. And we're going to talk about really the emotional IQ and like just that emotional intelligence and the mindset that is required to make that happen. Because I can tell you that based on, most of our journeys, it has not been a smooth transition, right? There's things that you'll encounter along the way. And so you have to be emotionally prepared to basically battle some of those obstacles. So ladies, would you like to chime in real quick? I'm going to try to help Tina out. But if you'd like
I am back.
There she is.
There we go. All right. We're back on a school cruise. Thank you.
I am on a secret location today.
Okay. So if someone wants to kind of just start us off, talk a little bit about that. Just behind closed doors, we talk a lot about the mindset, the emotional IQ that it's required. And it's something that it doesn't just happen once, right? Like every single day. I don't know about you, but every morning.
I really feel like we have to do this every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all.
We and Robert, you posted a graphic the other day, and Christina grabbed it and started using it. And I'm like, that is like exactly what it takes. Like we have really good ups. We're like, oh my god, we're doing fantastic.
We're crushing it.
We're crushing it. I'm such a freaking rock star. And then, oh my god, I freaking suck. And I really do think that was my life in the last couple of months because I'm telling Christina, oh my god, it's doing so well, and oh my god, I suck. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. And it's interesting. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna add to what Tina said because often people want this quick success, right? They want to do something and have instant results. That's the society that we're in, instant gratification. So often people will get started in something and quit like far before they are even close to where they need to be in their mindset. And that has a lot to do with how you handle your emotions, how you handle your own thoughts, how you wake up every morning and set your tone for the day. And I think that often people will quit because they count themselves out and just say, this is really hard. Like maybe I'm not meant to do this. And the truth is we all go through that. Like as many amazing celebrations as I've had for success, I've also probably wanted to quit the same amount of time and just thought like there's like at least a week of a year that I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much work. I don't like this. Why did I choose this journey? It is so much like, I can't believe that I keep going on this. Am I really cut out for this? And I asked myself that question. Am I really cut out for this? And maybe I don't feel great. By the way, never quit on a bad day. Maybe I don't feel great that day.
Yeah,
right?
You don't quit on a bad day. But what do you do, and how do you get out of that funk if you're in that funk? You know what I mean? I mean, yes, you have your accountability partners, never quit on a bad day, but we all go through it. I go through it on a constant basis. I don't know about you guys, but let me just tell you, this year has been ups and downs. My dog passed away.
I think for everybody.
Right? Like, I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so on top of your business that has all its ups and downs, you have to intertwine your life having those ups and downs as well, and kind of figure out the balance of the two as well. And I think that's the hardest thing to do, is to keep your mental up there.
Right.
So what do you guys do every day?
Well, I want to say this first of all, Tina, to kind of set the stage that just as we're talking about it. So like we all face different types of struggles and obstacles along the way, right? And like recognizing that there's an issue is like first and foremost. Most people fall into this funk and this struggle, and they just they don't want to acknowledge the fact that I'm in this position, right?
Yeah.
And they just want to bury it. They want to kind of push through their day and whatever allows them to kind of get through the day. And the problem with that is that's when you fall deeper into that rut, because you start to gravitate to these vices that allow you to forget about the pain that you're currently going through. So in other words, it's like Netflix. We all sit in this digital space. It'd be really easy to just be like, I'm just going to watch some YouTube videos, or I'm just going to bury myself into Facebook, or
6 hours later
on Netflix, right? So that was like first and foremost. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and then I'm just going to kind of throw it out to all of you, is we talk all the time on the show about imposter syndrome. And this was something that in one of my masterminds I discussed the other day. We took it to a deeper level. And it was like this aha moment where I realized, imposter syndrome typically is when we're always gauging ourselves to somebody that we want to be like, right? We want to emulate, we want to have their success, whatever that may be. And so by holding ourselves to that standard, it beats us down when we're not able to obtain that. But what if the imposter syndrome is yourself as well? Meaning that last month, you just stated it, or last year, you were killing it. You had your record year, or you had your record month. So this ideology that you were the shit, Tina, right? Like a couple months ago, and now you're holding yourself to that standard. You yourself, it's still imposter syndrome. Like you're sitting there going, well, what the heck? Like it's not even someone else. You're holding yourself to the standard of going, I'm not even as good as I was 2-3 months ago.
Exactly.
But that isn't the way to look at it. So I'm going to throw it out there, and then I'll bring it back around.
Starr, what do you think about how do you keep yourself motivated? Because I feel, and I know you're not, but I feel like you're always in this positive light, in this positive world. And not that I know you're not, but we all have those days where we're like, oh.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of struggles as entrepreneurs in general. For me, I recommend going back to the start of saying that this is what you're going to do. For example, if you're a mom, you're a mom. You don't get to quit being a mom. If you have a job and you started this career, some people do quit their job, but they may job hop and get into something else, but they're sticking with that career usually, right? So when you become an entrepreneur, for me anyways, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. There's no end of the road for me. There's no I'm going to bow out of this. Perhaps I've made shifts, perhaps I've made pivots, I've started different businesses, but I know okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So I think if you step into your position as an entrepreneur and know that this is what you're going to do with your life, there's no stepping back. For me, that's the starting point of it.
Yeah, I think it's having that
hours where you're like, okay, I have to be in the office from 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 so I can like focus. I don't have like hours like that. If I have to work, I'm going to work. If it's on Saturday, Sunday night, when whatever it is, my kids are all gone and out of the house. So it's, not like I have my family that I have to, go around. But like, I'm down in a secret location with Paco.
I want to know if you were with Paco.
So we're like, he was just like, we need to get you out of the house. We need to get you out of that space because my dog passed away, and it just kind of put me in more of a funk than I already was, because she's not there. And Christina and I were talking before we went live, and it's almost felt like there's like an emptiness. And so he's like, come down here. So as an entrepreneur, you can do those kind of things, right? You can live the life on your terms. You can live wherever you want. You can just go live as long as you have internet access, right? And they're like, I can work from anywhere. So do you guys like have to have like business hours where like I have to get all this stuff done?
No, but I also want to add to what you just said, because you're like, it's really hard. I'm going through this. And as an entrepreneur, you have to have the awareness and the discipline to reframe the challenge, right? You have to have that emotional IQ to not get stuck and sucked into it. So you have to have the discipline to create better habits. And Robert talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and I will bring it back around to the work hour thing. But he talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, which I wanted to touch on because everybody goes through it, and you start comparing yourself to other people. But one of the habits, one of the standards that I've set for myself is when I get to that mode where I'm like looking at somebody else for a second and thinking, wow, I wish I could be like them. I'm like, hey, how about instead of feeling that way, I'm going to study them. I'm going to see what they do well. I'm going to see what content is hitting. I'm going to see, are they using videos? Are they using posts? Are they using polls? Like how are they building this kind of audience? How are they building this engagement? And so instead of starting to feel bad about myself and like having this like competition and this feeling of defeat, I turn it into empowerment, right?
Yes.
And I think that when you start to do things like that and learn how to do things that way, because you can overcome any of these challenges when you learn the habits and patterns on how to do so. It's that dedication to building that business. And Tina, you talk about, how people set their work hours and what business looks like. And everybody does that differently. I'm like you. I love being in the flow. Like if I want to go to the lake and spend all day at the lake, I will work 30 minutes in the morning and then not touch my phone, right? Or I'll spend 8 hours working because I've got the day and I'll get all these things done and move ahead quickly. So I prefer to have a workflow that balances with my life and just kind of works synergistically with my life, as opposed to I have to work, 10 to 2 every single day. And this is my schedule. I like the freedom and flexibility more so than having to be disciplined that way. So we all kind of do that differently.
Yeah. And it is different, right? Like Starr, please chime in on this one, because I'm interested to find out, how do you thrive? I would imagine just in conversations that you thrive more in a structured environment than a fluid environment. Would that be correct?
Yeah. I want to recommend the 4-hour work week to you guys.
Yes.
Read that. But I do thrive in a more structured environment. And I think that's a little bit because I'm not diagnosed with ADD, but I do feel like I do have ADHD or ADD of some sort. My son has ADD. So for me, like, I do struggle with completing my tasks and projects. I'll be very honest with you guys. So I do need to have some structure in my day or in my life. And also I have kids that go to school, and I pick my husband takes them, as you guys know, just like Robert, makes the lunches and all that, but I have to pick them up. So I have structure, but outside of that, I do like entrepreneurship because I can work long hours. So if I choose to stay up till 2 a.m, which sometimes I do, you guys know, I'll be doing my work, and I tend to get very creative at night. So I also like to work at night quite a bit. So honestly, my days are not as hectic as people assume.
Yeah. But that is true. And I'm so glad that really all three of you have touched on this topic, and the fact that it is different, right? For all of us. Like when when you even think of that topic again, that question, like to live life on your own terms, what does it take? It's going to be different. Your journey is going to be entirely different than maybe the person next to you. And that's also why the imposter syndrome, it's another way to realize that, it's not apples to apples. When you're looking at someone and you're saying, I want what they have, I want to have that lifestyle or whatever it may be, you're also not necessarily looking at what's happening behind closed doors. You're not looking at what it actually takes to maybe achieve what they have. But in addition to that, like sometimes maybe that's not the sacrifice you want to make to have what they have. And those are just two different things, right? Like Christina, like you said, you like that fluidness. And I'm kind of that way as well. I'm kind of a mix, I guess, a hybrid. I like some structure. I have to have some structure in place in my schedule. But at the same time, whenever I see those gaps, I'm like, this means a little extra time in the gym. This means, you know what? I'm going to call this guy and we're going to go out and have lunch. And I'm going to do a little bit of like kind of preemptive or whatever it may be, or get on the call with one of you. So like, that's the important, and to me, I thrive in that. I love having that, the fluidness. Tomorrow, I'm going to be spending time with my daughter down in Georgia. Well, you're not even there, Tina. So anyways, but I'm going to be very close. I'm going to be down in Georgia, spending some time with her. Still taking a few calls, right? But even as I'm driving 2.5 hours to and from, I use those opportunities to network with people, right? And so, and if I'm not doing that, I don't know about you all, but I listen to a ton of podcasts and also a lot of books on audio. That's just I
want to ask our audience too, what does it look like for you to live life on your terms? What do you do? And if you're already living life on your terms, what are you doing every day or the night before every, work day? What are you doing to keep your life living the way you want to live? How you want to live it, when you want to live it, where you want to live it at, and being an entrepreneur, they say that entrepreneurs are the stupid people that, stop working a 40-hour work week to work a 100-hour week.
But they love it, right? Like that comes from the heart. Like you can't, when you have a mission, like that's the thing. Entrepreneurs have a mission, right? We talked a lot a few weeks ago or last week about what your why is and like what actually drives you, your purpose that drives you. And when you have a good, solid understanding of that and who you are and what you bring to the table, again, it's confidence. Confidence is king in this business. And so as you build that confidence, you have to make choices every day to do personal development, to instead of listen to the radio, you're listening to a podcast or you're listening to an audiobook, you're educating yourself. And one of the things about entrepreneurs is that we never stop growing. Right? We make the decision to never stop growing because business never stops growing. And who we become is what is building the business, right? Like you have to become the person required to build the next level of business. It doesn't just happen, right? People are like, I want to scale my business to 100,000, or I want to scale my business to multiple 6 figures or 7 figures. And it's like, there's so many pieces in between that it's not just more work that does that. Like a lot of times people think it's more work that they have to do to be able to get to scale. But if you were a one-man show, like a solopreneur, and you're trying to scale on your own without having a team behind you, without having an education, reading the 4-hour work week and figuring out what to focus on, you're going to have a really tough time because it really comes down to making business decisions that are based on facts and not your emotions. And that emotional intelligence is something that comes over time, because I remember when I first got into business, I don't know if you guys were like this. Maybe it's just a female thing, Robert. I don't know. But I was like really high with the highs. I was like, yes, this is amazing. And I was so excited. And then when things were low and not going well, I was like, ooh, this is not so good. Like I was like, I took it personally, right? And especially this is a good conversation for right now because of what's going on in the economy and the recession and realizing, hey, this is just a debt cycle. Debt cycles happen all the time. This is something that entrepreneurs, we have to adjust to. We have to get creative about solutions for our audience. We have to build new audiences, and we have to be willing to do the hard stuff during the times that are down, when everyone would be looking at their business being like, ooh, I'm not doing very well. I don't say I'm not doing very well. I say what's going on out there isn't great, but hey, how can we contribute in a positive way to help people right now? Right. And what do we need to do to serve them? Because a lot of the times, the thing that you were doing before is not the thing that they need right now. They need something else that's going to help them move through the difficult times so that they can thrive again, right? And so I think starting to think more about what are you feeding your mind every day, right? Are you talking to people that are like, oh man, business is down, like it's really rough? Or are you surrounded by people that are making big moves, that are super positive, that are like, come on, like, let's go, we can do this together, right? Like where are your thoughts most days?
Yeah. Like even when you're down, and Tina, I do want you to, I saw you're getting ready to respond to that. Like even when you're down, you must remain around the campfire. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Even in those moments where you just want to curl up and in a fetal position with a nice fluffy blanket over you or whatever, make sure you're still like near your tribe, your circle, because you're right. Like it's those moments that in those downtimes, you'll still be empowered. And that's what's going to give you that aha moment or that breakthrough to like get up and start moving again.
I think that's a reason why people have events, right? Like, everybody has events.
Mm-hmm.
We have an amazing guest coming on next week. Ray Higdon is coming on. And I was so excited because I think Robert and I are both going to the Faith Over Fear event.
Yes.
And when I decided to go, I was like, right at this moment, because Christina, I'm in that position where I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? How do I need to pivot my business? What do I need to, switch around? And I'm like, you know what? I need to be in front of these kind of people because that is my tribe. Those positive, uplifting, spiritual people who are just going to keep pouring into me. And then just being around those kind of people, because he has these amazing VIP events at nighttime, right? So just being around those people, I'm going to come back like fired up. And Robert, I know you and I are going to be him and I were trying to say that we were going to do some live on the carpet from Uncensored Entrepreneurs.
Interviews. I mean, but that's it, right? Like it's an opportunity to be around the fire, to educate yourself, to kind of, just to sharpen those skills once again, but also like to network. And I tell you, like, that's what I love about networking and being around people like yourselves, is that when one of us is down, like the next person has like this moment of energy, like you said, Christina, where you're just like fired up. So when you're, in those moments where you're down, the next person's just like, let's go, like get out of bed. We got this. Or, you know what? I need your help with something, or I've got somebody I would like to introduce you to. Like having those connections are so key.
And that's why having, all four of us on our show and, in this business together is so amazing, because when one of us is down or when one of us is going through things, the other three are like, come on, we can do this. How about this? How about this? And we're throwing ideas out there, right? So being around your tribe and having the right tribe, because I remember when my mom, when my grandmother was little, or when I was little, my grandmother used to tell me, Tina, you always are who your 5 people around you are. And then it started getting,
you are the company you keep.
Yeah. Then it started getting like more intense as I grew up. I wanted all these friends. And then I think the older I get, the less friends that I have.
Yeah.
Or your tribe just becomes more selective, right? It's just,
I want you in my circle.
You just have to start. Go ahead, Starr.
Oh, no. In living life on your terms, you have to define what that looks like for yourself, right? So for me, one of my pillars is luxury lifestyle, and that's going to look different for all of my clients. Essentially, it's, being able to have that time freedom and that location freedom, whether the fact that I get to work from my home office every day, somebody else like Christina might be by the lake working that day, whatever that Are you, Tina? No. But
No. I'm talking about Christina. She's always. Or are you back home now, or are you still in Canada?
I'm in Canada at the moment. Yeah.
She's not right now.
So once you identify, the lifestyle that you want to live, what is that going to cost for you? What are your goals? You need to establish your goals. So how much income do you need to bring into your business? What ways do you want to bring that income in? Maybe, I want to make 10K from this product or 10K from this specific part of my business. And also, following Grant Cardone's 10X strategy, where you write that goal down. For me, I usually write down, because we've been generating about $1 million in sales previously in my retail business. So now what I'm doing, since we're shifting online, is like, okay, let me break down exactly what that looks like for me on a monthly basis and a weekly basis, so that those numbers feel very realistic for me. And I feel like, okay, I'm going to be working towards this. And then you can close your day out by writing those goals down as well.
Or even a daily goal, a daily goal, Starr, because, they're like, oh, I want to make $1 million this year. And they're like, oh,
yeah.
Well, making $1 million is only such and such amount of money a month, which I should know that by the.
Let's do the numbers. I'll do it.
I know you know the numbers off my head. Okay, so it should be this much money a month.
Right.
Christina.
It should be $2,700, so $2,739 a month. And so think, if you're running a business and you've got other people that are doing sales for you, you have a team doing sales for you, right?
That's
I know that it's $83,333 a month as opposed to per day, right? And could you imagine waking up every day and being like, I got to do $1 million. I got to do $1 million. And that goal seems so massive that you're like, how am I going to do that? And you have all this pressure put on you when you're like, oh, okay, $2,700. How am I going to add that up in different products or in different services? What am I going to do that can create that amount of money that will equal that at the end of the year?
I think actually, quite honestly, that would be a good show in itself, that we could really break down and talk about the KPIs, right?
Yes.
Right when you even started into that, I'm like, I live and breathe KPIs now. And for those that are just kind of tuning in and going, what the heck's that? I mean, key performance indicators. Like when you break down the metrics of your business and you work from kind of the end in mind, at least for me, and I work backwards, just like they're stating, it really allows you to focus on that. And sometimes you're ahead of your goal, and then other times you're like, I'm kind of lost in this. And so you have to either, if you want to hit your goal monetarily, you have to either sell more products or raise your prices, right? Or add a new mix in, or build JV partnerships like most of us have, so that, you can actually bring in another stream of income. And then, again, we'll save that for another show.
Income, you also want to see all the different things. You're like, okay, if I have 100 people in my group coaching program paying me $97 a month, that brings in this much. If I have 5 one-on-one coaching, clients every year, that brings in this much every year. If I have if I sell 100, courses, or my evergreen course, it brings in this much money a year, and this is how much money I bring in residually, and this is how much I bring in from my royalties on my Amazon for your book that you're going to write this year. And so all of the things, and you're like, okay, I'm bringing in this much, this much, this much, this much. It's going to end up to being $2,700 a month, and or $2,700 a day. What is it? $2,700 a day?
$2,739.
Yeah, $2,739. Yeah.
I'll never forget that number.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of there, right? And when you start thinking of your product mix, you're like, oh, I need to sell a product a day. That's not so hard. But anyways, just depending on where you're at. So my own personal coach actually was coached for many years by Steve Farber. And one of the things that it just seems so perfect right now for our conversation. One of the quotes they always throw out there from one of his books, which the book is called Love is Just Damn Good Business. That's the title of the book. But the quote that I love is, do what you love in the service of people who love what you do, right? Do what you love in the service of people who love what you do. And what I love about that quote, and it just kind of came to mind with everything that all of you have been talking about, is that whether you're in your high moment or low moment, like that quote kind of pertains to that mindset, right? Meaning that if you at the end of the day are loving what you do in the service of others, right? Who love also what it is that you're doing in their lives, then it doesn't matter the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs. Like that in itself, we talked last week about, your why, but that in itself is a catalyst. It's a big why that actually will help move the needle when you're down. So if you focus on that again, you're like, that's why I'm doing that, right? It isn't so much about, if we just focus on the money side, you'll drive yourself crazy. If I compare like this month's sales with last month's sales, because I actually had a record month, just saying. But anyways, that all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm banging my head against the wall going like, I'm not hitting those KPIs right now. Yeah. But if I just focus again, forget about money, focus on the service that you're actually putting out there, that it's changing somebody else's lives, and the response of that, like the fact that because you're changing their lives, like that ripple effect that will actually come from that in itself gets me right back into the game, and I'm moving again. And sometimes the KPI now isn't so much monetary when you're in those moments. It's more about who can I help next? Who can I help next? Who can I help next? And by doing that, the numbers will follow.
Yeah, whenever I am in a funk, I had a mentor that said, whenever you get into a funk, go help somebody. Go help somebody that you know you can
so
serve.
true. That's it.
And one of the things that I also had to learn in business was how to cool my hot temper. Right? Like I had to learn. Weird, right? The spicy Italian. So one of the things I had to learn was instead of reacting to situations, because you are going to face challenge after challenge after challenge. Unfortunately, people get beat up by that, or they get emotionally drained by that, and then they give up, right? But if you realize you're going to face challenge after challenge after challenge, you learn how to respond as opposed to react, because a lot of the times you're going to do way more damage responding emotionally. And like when you're triggered by something or something is upsetting to you, instead of going to a team member or going to a customer that's complaining or a client that's complaining, right? Instead of like right off the bat saying da 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 da, like the first thing that comes to your mind, which often is probably not the right thing to say, right? When you're just like, come on, right? You learn to take a little bit of time and respond in different ways that uphold a certain standard of communication in your circle, right? I learned this in the network marketing space because there was a lot of people that come in that you don't sponsor, right? You don't get a choice on who's on your team. And so a lot of the times drama comes into place. And you know what, whether you're in network marketing or not, like workplace environment, I remember working in salons and there was drama, right? Like you learn how to stay out of it and act as a responsible business owner when you learn how to respond to difficult situations as opposed to react, right? That's part of that emotional IQ piece.
So Christina, how do you take that? So, if somebody's listening here and they're wondering, how do you respond instead of react? What would your answer be? How do you respond instead of react? Like, what would your
sometimes it's time and space. Sometimes it's like going for a walk and hiking it out and doing something physical that makes me sweat, right? To get that anger, anxiety, frustration, whatever it is that's coming out. I have to go get some movement in my body. But sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's just taking 2 minutes to think, okay, why are they responding this way? Where is it coming from? And instead of reacting, I get really curious. Like, I don't know why you would feel this way, but I would like to hear a little bit more. Can you give me a little bit more clarity in the conversation so that we can actually work this out? I'm not here to fight with you. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to upset you. I'm here to make you a better person. I'm here to make you a stronger person, because sometimes all of us are coaches. Sometimes in our line of work, we trigger people's hot spots, right? And we say things that people get upset about, and it's their personal triggers. And so if we play into that, we just escalate a situation, as opposed to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to just listen a little bit more, get a little bit curious about why you feel this way or why you're reacting this way. And then let's move through this together, because I want to both grow from this conversation, right? If you feel this way towards me, I want to work through it with you so that you still trust me. You still trust me to deliver hard news when I have to, because sometimes we have to say things we don't want to say, right? We have to give people like a bit of a mirror and say, hey, this might be a you thing. I understand that I triggered that, and I'm going to work better on my communication. So taking responsibility is huge, right?
Huge.
As opposed to blaming and pointing the finger back. It's like, you know what? I could have handled that better. I apologize. But a lot of the times people are usually fighting. And I used to do this too, because I used to feel like I had to defend my efforts. I had to defend what I was doing, just maybe how I was raised. But a lot of the times people are defending what they believe in. And sometimes it's correct. Sometimes it's not correct. But when you go into a conversation where people are already defensive about what you've said, trying to win them over or prove a point, it's not the right time, right? So you have to earn their trust back and apologize and say, look, I never meant to make you feel that way, and take responsibility because of that emotional intelligence. I have the courage, the confidence to do so. But we need to have a bigger discussion here, because I want to work through this with you, and I want both of us to grow in the process.
Yeah, that is so true.
Going through, right? You got to always see what they're going through, and they just like you said, they might be triggered by something that you said, and they're reacting instead of responding. Maybe that's what the for us iPhone users, the good the three dots that start the three dots, and then they stop. You're like, maybe it's a good thing that they stop.
Yeah, that's but taking the onus, like you said, that's huge. That was a mic drop, Christina. I think more than it seems so simplistic right on the surface, But as an entrepreneur, when we kind of fall into our niche and our space and our groove, I mean, we all at some point tend to be an expert in some field, in some craft. And so, of course, we feel that we have the right answers most of the time when it pertains to whatever skill set or craft that we claim as being an expert in. And so, of course, that happens. But I love that. I love the fact that you actually mentioned to take the onus, because by doing that, there's a few things. Number one, it diffuses the situation into like in a whole different direction, right? And the other thing it does, and this is kind of what came to mind here, based on our conversation, our topic today, is that in itself is empowerment, right? Because if I argue with you, if I push back and there's this, push and pull and this resistance the entire time, it's going to be really hard for me to move past that. The other thing is I'm giving so much energy to that the remainder of my day is going to be effed up, right? Because I'm going to be sitting there thinking and dwelling on this conversation that happened all day long, or the fact that they didn't make a payment, or the fact that they didn't, feel that this was right, or whatever it may be. Like that in itself will pull you into a rut faster than almost anything. And so by taking onus, it's kind of like, maybe even if I am right, I could do so much better, or possibly they were looking for this. So next time I can figure out how to actually deliver what it is that they're looking for, going above and beyond, right? Yeah. What they're expecting.
And don't you think that learning, like, not to take things personally, because I think as an entrepreneur, it's extremely important to build confidence so that you can ask for feedback, right? And when I ask for feedback, you have to learn how to filter the information. Is it true? Is it something that I need to work on? Is it something that like, ooh, that stings a little bit because I need to move through it? Or can I dismiss it because this is something else that somebody else owns? This is like their excuse or like I remember saying, do you have any feedback about my mastermind? Well, I really didn't like the time that it was at and I could never be there. And I was like, okay, well, that's actually not on me. You can watch the replay. You can be in my inbox. I can help you the same way. 50% of the people that work with me do that. And so you start to filter the information, and I don't take anything personally. I just take it as feedback, right? Like you can come and attack me and I'm like, I'm not going to own that. That's kind of on you, right? Like that's not on me. So it's learning that process.
Yeah. So how long did it take for you to learn that kind of process?
30 years.
Yeah, I was going to say a lifetime.
Right? Like it's hard. It's hard because our initial nature is to fight for what we want, right? We fight for power. We fight for energy. This is who we are as human beings. And so it takes a lot to build that emotional intelligence, that IQ that allows you to see things very not black and white, but like very transparently, because we're all looking at life through a filter. We're looking at it through our filter. And so if I'm trying to receive information from somebody else's filter, I have to decipher, is this part of their life? Is this something that interacts with my life? And that is a constant practice. Like we all know that entrepreneurship is growth. Like that is truly what you've committed to if you're an entrepreneur, and that there's going to be uncomfortable times. I was talking to my dad last night and he's like, there's a couple of times that like I had to eat my pride. And that's like one of the hardest things you have to do. Right. And you just like pick up and start over. And I think we've all probably been through that at one point or another where we're like, oh, I really screwed that up. There's a flaw in me that I need to fix right now, where I reacted the wrong way, or I did something that I didn't have the skill set or the emotional intelligence to handle. Right. Now it's easy when you talk to people to kind of sift through them and see, when you first talk to somebody and you're doing a consultation, it's pretty easy for me to see what's going to work and what isn't. If they're constantly asking certain questions, I'm like, I don't think that working together is the best idea. Right. And that takes confidence and courage to say as an entrepreneur, because in the beginning, you're like, give me all the business. I don't care who I'm working with. And then you learn the hard way that sometimes it's not worth taking everybody on as a client.
If I have to hold your hand and drag you to the table, right? Like truly drag you to the table, then more than likely I'll be holding your hand through the entire process. And that's okay, right? If that's what they're paying for. But in many times, most people aren't paying for that type of time.
Enough. They're not paying enough.
Right. I actually, I just wanted to mention something based on what you said there. So a few months ago, I'll just throw out numbers, right? So people are listening. It's not even my highest program, but I actually sold $6,000 of coaching time. And it all came from this. This is so interesting. We talked about a boot camp. It was kind of a boot camp / mastermind that happened in January. And it was a low cost. It was a $199 session where we just got in there for 3 days and gave some powerful information. I had the same exact conversation that you mentioned, Christina, where the feedback was those were horrible hours, right? Even like right now, like some people may not be able to come on to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we have the replay. And so their feedback was those were horrible hours for me. And I blah, 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 whatever it was, right? They were just upset about the whole thing. They wanted a refund. So I gave them the refund. I told them that they still had access to the replays free of charge, right? And so I'm in this conversation with them and I said, let me ask you a few things. What did you expect to get out of the mastermind if you would have been able to be a part of that experience? And so they told me, and I said, okay, and what would that do? Like, what would that do for you? That's what you were looking for. How would that apply to your business? And so they kind of talked to me through a few things there. And I said, so really at the end of the day, like that's what you're looking for. If I can help you do that, hands-on, then can we agree to move forward and work together? And so it turned into a $199 refund turned into a $6,000 coaching session. Wow. So I just want to throw that out there that it's really about that. Like, so we talk about emotional IQ, we talk about emotional intelligence. At the end of the day, like if you're serving people, truly serving people in a big way, I'm not talking about just selling products and widgets and things of that nature. I mean, those are still good. They still serve a purpose. But on the coaching side, like at the end of the day, if I just want people to stand up and say, man, you changed my life, my business, whatever that is because of it, then that is huge. And if you put it in that context, not only does it deliver to them, but it delivers for you, right, Tina? Because we just talked about that at the beginning of the show. The fact that you're like, I'm just not having a good month. Like things are just falling apart. I'm not having the sales that I want. Put it back into that context. The right person will come to you at the right time, and it will bring the right financial reward as well. That I'm just a firm believer of that.
And you're not going to make everybody happy, right? Like, I mean, even with us too, like trying to figure out a day and a time for this to work out for just us four, right? It was hard because we have 2 people in Pacific time. We have 2 people in Eastern time. You know, we were like, okay, well, what day would be good? What day was not good? And, we found a time. And that's why we are turning this into a podcast that you can binge watch, Christina, that you can start binge watching or binge listening. You know what I mean? So you can listen to this, but you also have to put in the work. You also have to put in the work. You can't just let it just say, okay, I want all this to happen. One thing I have learned in the last couple of months that my business has, had ups and downs is that, okay, well, what am I doing now that I wasn't doing earlier? What am I not doing that I was doing earlier when it was working, right? And some of that is just mindset, because when you have really, really good months, like, or days, you have really good days, right? I remember working in retail and I was like hitting it. And I'm like, oh my God, over and over again. And then I had a dead spell. And then getting out of that dead spell was the hardest thing to do. Not, I was like rolling donuts, 0, 0, 0. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, they used to call me the Latin assassin. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And they're like, what's going on with the Latin assassin? Something's going on with her. But then when I would hit it, it would be like hitting it. So what do you do on those days that you're like rolling donuts? And I don't know if you guys know what a rolling the donut is, but it's like hitting a big fat 0.
I'm sorry. There was a lot of value in what you just delivered, Tina, but I forever now will think of you as the Latin assassin. So that's going to go down in history.
That was my name in the corporate world here, or when I was in Atlanta.
I think about like how many no's you have to do to get to a yes. Like people underestimate how many people you have to talk to in business. I remember when I first got into network marketing, which I think is a great book in general for sales. I listened to Go for No, and it's a really short book, right? But it just made you realize, like, and like I think I brought up Taylor Swift last time, and she's on this Eras tour that's going to make 900 million, and she has been doing this for 17 years, and she had more no's than most people by the time she was 12. And so what entrepreneurs do is they problem solve in the process. So if they're getting a bunch of no's, maybe they need to adjust their message. Maybe they need to adjust their business strategy. Maybe they need to adjust who they're speaking to. Yeah, or something, you know.
Right. Their copy, everything, you know. Okay, well, maybe my price is too high. Maybe price is too low. Maybe my landing page, maybe I'm not getting that out there. Maybe they don't know exactly what I do. So you have to analyze everything. And Sarah said, what's the name of our podcast? Well, it's going to be Uncensored Entrepreneurs.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll get right on that, Sarah.
Yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot more information on the upcoming podcast. We'll be streaming across all the primary, podcast stations. You'll find us on Apple, find us on Spotify, and then many other secondary stations as well. So we're looking forward to that.
I want to know from Starr, because Starr, listen, $1 million a year in sales. Think about it that way. The brick and mortar business.
I just do $1 million in sales.
No big deal, right? So many people want to get to that stage, but how many zeros did you have before you came up with the right formula to hit $1 million a year, right? There were so many things that you had to adjust course on and change and test. We just learned how to fail forward faster. I don't care about failures. I don't care if things, I had a sales post bomb the other day, and I was like, is it my language? Did I use a certain word? What is it that I need to adjust? And I didn't delete it. A lot of people just delete content that doesn't do well. And I'm like, what did I learn from that? Where can we adjust the language, or what does Facebook not want me to talk about, creating financial freedom for
sometimes
people, right?
Sometimes it's not your audience at all. It's the fact that your audience hasn't even seen it because of the algorithm and everything else that combats what we do. But go ahead, Starr, with that.
So for me, obviously, I didn't hit $1 million year one in business. I think I had a successful first year in business with his products, but there were a lot of challenges. Number one is finding the correct vendor. You think you have the right vendor. I almost went out of business from dealing with a shady vendor who didn't send me products in over 30 days. So now it's you've got to pay your lease, you've got to pay your staff, and there's freaking no product in the store to sell. That's so tacky and unprofessional, right? But these are some of the challenges that I faced. Pricing was also another thing, because you have to be very competitive. I want to position myself as a luxury brand and be able to charge the right prices. But I'm competing with other people who might be selling products that are not as superior to mine, but they're cheaper. So people want that. So playing with the price points. My husband recommended me to do a BOGO deal, and that took off for a few years. I was like, whoa, people really went crazy over that. And
everyone loves the BOGO.
Yeah. And then I faced.
But you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there definitely were a lot of tweaking and shifts, and there was one point where I even shut down one of my locations. And then I reopened it. There was another point where I used one of my locations to run a completely different business out of there while it was in its there. Yeah. So, but there's definitely a lot. But the other thing I wanted to add to the conversation was boundaries, especially because we're in the online space and we're dealing with people and humans. And I just feel in the online space, there's really going to be sometimes some crazy people out there. Let's just face it, right? And if you're dealing with situations like that, we want to build a dream business. We may not want to be exposed to people that are acting a certain way, behaving a certain way. Fortunately, I haven't had any negativity in my programs, but I've been in programs where there's toxic people. And so to remove those people from the programs, because it's affecting your other clients and their ability to perform, or even step forward and ask the questions that they really need help with, because maybe this person is belittling the entire mastermind. I mean, I've seen it all.
Yes.
And being able to fire clients. And for me, I'm not a life coach. I'm not a therapist. So unfortunately, I teach strategy. I teach strategy.
Amen. you need to see a counselor.
Starr, you actually are a certified life coach just based on the experience that you've actually had in your business. So again, I don't want to belittle any life coaches out there. But what I'm saying is that, the experience alone makes you qualified to be able to give people advice in certain areas, right? I mean, you've experienced it, the good and the bad, the ebbs and the flows. And by the way, I think that one common theme that all of us are saying right now, especially with what you just said, Starr, is the perseverance. The fact that one thing that we all have, regardless, Tina, you could have the worst month you've ever had in your entire life, and I guarantee that I'll still see you next month, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the whole point of this is that you're going to keep showing up. You're going to keep pushing.
I'm not going to
You're
quit.
going to reach out. You're using this opportunity as the ability to pivot, to reach out, to ask people for help, to maybe absorb some new ideas, surround yourself with other people that'll empower you, go to events like we're going to next month. And those are the things that'll keep pushing you forward. That's one ingredient regardless. Starr, man, I resonated with you when you were saying that, because I told all of you, I used to be in the brick and mortar business. I started 2 franchises from the ground up. We grew them to 24 locations at the time before I got out, and they're still growing. But there were so many people that left me high and dry for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Locations don't get built out on time. Things, you go to a location and all the fixtures are missing. All your equipment is gone. Your signage is gone. I mean, I've experienced all those things, and you have to be able to say, I'm going to keep pushing forward, right? You can be upset. You can be pissed off. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. It's not fair, but you keep pushing forward.
The meme that I keep seeing is, do you know that little meme that the guy is like digging for gold? And he was like,
yes,
I'm giving up. And he's
like this far away from like the biggest gold mine.
That's exactly
it.
And then there's another guy coming in behind him, right?
And he was like, I'm done. Wow. It's you like you said, you never want to quit on a bad day. But so many people have told me in the last couple of months, when these times get tough like this, it's one, God just helping you like rebuild and teach you a lesson too, but he's also showing you that there's a bigger way, like that. Again, like the meme of the little girl has a little tiny teddy bear and God's behind her with a bigger teddy bear. And he's like, just give it to me. And she's like, no, I love my teddy bear. He's like, no, but I have something bigger for you. And she's like, no, I want to keep it. He's like, no, you have to let it go in order for me to bring in something bigger for you.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't know if you guys do this. This is something that I do when I have dips in business or when things aren't going exactly the way that I want. I find it really hard to stay motivated by money. I just do. So what Ryan and I have learned to do is set bigger goals that excite us. So like we were sitting here and, we're talking about the real estate industry. We're talking about what he was doing in Cabo and setting some different goals for Cabo. And same for me with my business. I'm working really hard to be able to scale and figure out, okay, how can I impact more people and create bigger business and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at him and I said, but like, what would actually excite you? Because he misses Canada. He misses family here. And not that I don't miss those things. I'm just really happy on the beach, and he's not as much a person, right? Like that's like I'm like living my best life, but it's not. And here's the thing about marriage too: like you don't always have the same dreams, the same goals, the same aspirations as your partner. And so in entrepreneurship, if you are the person that is driving the boat, like you also have to take into consideration what are the things that my partner wants. And so we had this big conversation. Of course, uncomfortable, financial. Like you never want to have these like conversations when you're emotional, but it happens then, so we have these big conversations like, how are we going to move forward? What are we going to work towards together? And he simply said to me, he's like, Christina, I want to work really hard for the next 2-3 years, come back and pay cash for waterfront property. And I said, if that is the goal that you are willing to work for, it's the one I'm willing to work for. And now we're working on the same team. Now we're going the same direction, as opposed to like, oh, you like it here, I like it here. What are we going to do next? Like, let's have some direction that we're both willing to work towards. That has nothing to do with my business goals. That is my life goal. Like we want to have property in different places, right? And so I'm obviously going to have bigger conversations that are uncomfortable when necessary. And I think so many people don't have those big, uncomfortable conversations often enough or fast enough. And now, instead of avoiding them, which was my habit before, I would avoid it until there was this huge explosion. I race to those conversations when I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I like that. So, I mean, like all these tips really guide us towards this, again, when we first started thinking about this topic, like how to live life on your own terms, we wanted to put this more in that sense of, what type of emotional IQ does it take?
Yeah.
What is the mindset that is required to keep pushing forward to experience like the life that you actually want? It isn't always roses, right? It takes a lot.
It isn't always rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. And so as you've heard, right, from many of us, but again, I'm going to say it just because it really has kind of been kind of my brand for the year. And that's, again, doing what you love in service of others that love what you do, right? So like that in itself, whatever it is you're going to do, know that there's this bigger picture, right? It's not just the monetary things. We've thrown out a few numbers. It's not just the money. It's in the end, what kind of lifestyle, what kind of dreams you can have for yourself. But really, at the end of the day, in order to achieve that, you're helping others to achieve and see their dreams as well. So what are some of the last little tidbits you guys would like to throw out in the last few minutes of really?
I always ask my clients is, when they're writing the book, right? Because sometimes it's very hard to write and to relive those moments. A lot of people write, how they got to where they are today. And there's always like 1 or 2 chapters that was like that pivotal point, right? And they always go, oh my God, Tina, this is like a hard chapter to write. And I'm like, listen, if you can just help one person, if one person, you save somebody's life, you got somebody out of a bad marriage, you got somebody stop doing drugs or stop drinking alcohol. If you just helped one person, would this all be worth it? And they said, yes, definitely. And so, and I give them grace. I give them, time to process and heal and do that. And then they keep moving on. And then we released the book and they're like, Tina, that was the most healing experience I have ever done. Even like years and years of therapy.
Yeah.
And so that was just my one thing. And all my clients know, if I can just help one person, would it all be worth it? So just ask yourself that.
I think the Bible tells us a story about that as well. Okay. Yeah, but absolutely. It's so true. So true.
Starr?
Yeah. So definitely figure out, what is it that you want your life to look like? Your luxury life. Okay. That doesn't mean luxury financially, but whatever that means for you, decide on that. Also, you need to map out exactly what it's going to take for you to get there and have that result. And then make a vision board, whether you put that on your desktop or a poster board.
Yes.
So start looking at that vision every single day from a visual aspect so that you remember what you're working towards and you actually start working towards it daily.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, I like that a lot.
So
It's having higher standards and higher habits for your life, right? It's not getting stuck for when I first got into entrepreneurship and there was conflict or there was challenge, it might take me out for a month. And as I started to grow my skills and my emotional IQ, as I started to move through business, it would take me out for less time, right? A couple of weeks, it would bother me. A difficult conversation would bother me a little bit. And I'd try and go over it in my head and like, how could I have reacted differently? What could I have done? Again, that react versus respond, right? So I learned, okay, so I no longer react now. Now I'm going to respond. How would you like to respond to the situation? And as that happens, as you raise your standards in business and as you change your habits to allow you to move forward faster, all the like little stuff, like you ever read the book or heard the thing, like don't sweat the small stuff, all the little stuff that a lot of entrepreneurs spend a lot of time on just trying to fix. I no longer spent time there anymore. Like if it's not a $10,000 problem, I don't know if it's my problem. It might be somebody else's problem to fix, but like if it's not something that is significant, like I'm not going to dabble in little things and worry my whole day away. And that also has to do with discipline, having the confidence not to have to say your 2 cents, having the confidence to be relentless in your decisions and not having to explain yourself to anybody and being like, it's this way or not, right? Take what works for you and leave the rest is like one of my favorite sentences when people are having conflict is like, what works for you? Great. Then don't do anything else. Like when I go in and work with a coach or when I work with a mentor, I'm going to take the things that work for me and I'm going to leave the rest. And I'm not going to feel bad about them. I'm not going to say, oh, I wish I was there, or this doesn't work for me. I don't like this part. I'm not going to go and do that. I'm just gonna be like, hey, you know what? Great for you. This is how I'm going to develop. And this is a system I'm going to develop. And if you can learn how to do that, you can move through all of this so much faster.
Oh, absolutely. So, all right, we've got just a couple minutes left. I did want to just end with a kind of preemptively talking about next week, right? So we have, you mentioned earlier, we have Ray Higdon coming on. You'll see some more posts coming up in regards to that. But I really want to take, the opportunity to some of these questions that we're talking about. What great questions that we can ask Ray, right? Because that's somebody, again, that has been through these ebbs and flows, right? Yeah. Most of us know some of his journey, but our audience doesn't. And so it'll be interesting to find out how he gets himself out of a rut, because I can guarantee you at any level in business,
he's been, he talks about it, that he's been there,
Yeah, exactly.
He's had to reinvent himself over and over and over and over again. And that is the job of an entrepreneur. If things aren't working for you, guess what? It's time for your alter ego to come in and step up, because when you're feeling unsatisfied in business, honestly, it's because you've grown and you're still sitting right here. So you've got to reinvent. Who are you becoming? Who do you want to serve? How do you want to go out there? And I really look forward to talking to Ray. He's a friend of mine, and super excited he's going to be here next week. But like, he's really evolved in his brand and what he's and how he's serving people right now.
And within the last year too, he has completely turned.
Absolutely.
It's necessary.
We'll talk next week about that and about how he brought God and his faith into his multi-million-dollar business and what that did to his business. Did it help it or did it hurt it? I mean, I'm sure it helped it, because he's doing this huge faith over fear event that I'm so excited.
But it's interesting, and again, we'll hear some more clarification from him. But it did both, right? I mean, when you pivot and you change this kind of identity, or you hold something new to be like your truth, then things happen, right? Your audience doesn't like change sometimes, and so his numbers. I remember I saw them when he came back onto the scene. It was just, they decreased. They were cut in half, but awesome. I think they're came back around, and they're like twofold, right? Because of this change. And if you're empowered, then the audience that you speak to, you'll be speaking, as long as it's the right audience, it'll be for the right reasons, and you don't have to worry about the numbers. So,
well, thank you guys for watching Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We're so excited. Thank you guys so much for being here. Join us next week when we have the one and only Ray Higdon in the house.
Yep. So mark your calendars. That's the 24th of August at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. See you then. Take care.
Bye, guys.